Hi, I'm Joe St. Henry, and you're watching Inside Lake Orion Schools, our new monthly broadcast on ONTV, featuring news and highlights from around the district. Each episode will feature interviews with our teachers, our students, administrators, and others in our community, highlighting what makes Lake Orion School District one of the best in Oakland County, if not the state. Our first episode focuses on our talented educators.
Hi, I'm Janine Chrisman. I'm the media specialist at Carpenter Elementary.
Hi, I'm Melissa Dalton. I'm the Spanish teacher at Scripps Middle School.
I'm Andrea Brooke, and I teach biology at Lake Orion High School.
Great. We're going to start with Janine and talk a little bit about what she's been doing over the last few years as the media specialist at Carpenter. It's my understanding, Janine, that you have taken the lead for the school district on integrating technology into the curriculum in all of the elementary buildings. In fact, earlier in August, the state of Michigan recognized Carpenter and its library as the state's first 21st century model school library. Now that's quite an accomplishment. Let me ask you, how have libraries changed over the years since you started teaching?
Good question. Yeah, libraries have evolved and have had to evolve if they want to stay relevant and if their programs want to stick around, to be quite honest. A lot of other districts have cut their media programs, so I really felt it was important that we were doing things not in isolation, but that we were working with teachers and with classroom curriculum and infusing the technology with the classroom curriculum, because that's really the goal, to have your technology being used as a tool to learn your curriculum, not just being taught once a week when you come to see me for a special.
So what factors or what criteria did the state use in selecting Carpenter for this award?
Well, the Library of Michigan has a program in place called SL21, and they have benchmarks and standards in place that any library in the state can use to assess their program. So I used that, and I received the SL21 exemplary certification. And then the head of our department, actually, Melissa Middleton, she's the one who sent me the application for the model library program. It's a new program. This is the first year of it. And so I looked at it and I thought, well, I do all those things. And so I applied, and I didn't really think too much about it until the spring when I got notified that our library was selected. So it was quite an honor, and I was pretty surprised.
Great, great. Can you give me some examples of how technology has been integrated into the elementary curriculum, not just at Carpenter, but maybe at some of the other schools in our district?
Yeah, well, a lot of us are doing similar things. We've been lucky enough to meet, the media specialists have been able to meet together and share what's been working and great projects that they've been doing. So we've really been collaborating together as well, which has been really beneficial. A lot of the new state standards have technology embedded in them. For example, creating a multimedia presentation is a standard that is now on report cards. So that's something that fits naturally with me, because that's what I like to do and teach kids. So we'll take something like that and we'll combine that with a science standard or a social studies unit. And instead of having kids make a poster or do a brochure, we'll have them create a multimedia presentation instead and do research and pull in images and videos and things like that.
Now, I've seen you work with young elementary students as well, not only in the library at Carpenter, but also in the classroom. What do you do with the younger kids to introduce them to using technology in the learning process?
Well, it's you have to be brave. But honestly, the kids come, they already have a lot of exposure to things like tablets and smartphones, and we use those things. They're pretty good with them. But we try to use them in a more meaningful way, so that they're not just on there playing a game, which isn't all bad, especially if they're reinforcing skills. But we want them to be doing some more creation of content, creating some original things instead of just consuming, information or playing a game. And also, I think it's important to expose them to desktops and like a keyboard and a mouse. A lot of them don't know how to use those efficiently, so we work a lot on that as well.
Great. So what do you tell parents that may not be overly familiar with children in elementary schools relying so much on technology in the classroom? How do you explain the rationale to them?
In using technology? Well, gosh, I mean, these kids need to have these skills to be successful in our world today. They need to know how to navigate online environments. They need to know how to evaluate a website and know whether it's coming from a good source or not. They have to be critical thinkers. So if they don't have these skills, things like cyberbullying and being a good digital citizen, all of that stuff, you need to have those conversations with kids these days.
Right. So do you consider yourself a techie?
No, I don't exactly. I think of myself as a teacher who loves technology, and I know I'm a media specialist, but I kind of think of myself as a teacher who teaches in the library and in the tech lab and in classrooms and just kind of all over.
All right, great, thanks. Now let's talk to Melissa now. Melissa, how did you, my understanding is that you are the 2016 Middle School Teacher of the Year for the Michigan World Language Association. That's quite an honor.
Yes, I was really surprised.
How many languages do you speak fluently?
Fluently, honestly, well, English, of course, at least I hope, Spanish and Japanese, and I could survive in Italy, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent in it. So.
When did you discover your calling to become a foreign language teacher?
I had a great high school Spanish teacher. In fact, I wanted to take French, and I ended up in Spanish class. I absolutely adored this teacher. And she would invite exchange students. I went to a very small town community school, and there wasn't a whole lot going on there in between Lansing and Grand Rapids. And we'd get exchange students, and she'd invite them into our classroom and have the exchange students working on their English, but also working with us. And then we do these dramatic plays and go up to CMU World Language Day and perform them, with the exchange students, everything like that. And finally, one of the exchange students invited me to her house in Spain for the summer.
Wow.
And my mom said, "Your sister's going too, so you guys can keep an eye on each other." And that's really how I ended up being a Spanish teacher, was from that experience.
Great. How important do you think it is for students to become fluent in a foreign language in today's world?
I think it's fundamental. My husband works in the auto industry. We were transferred to Japan for 3 years. And just, in Michigan especially, but all over the world, like, everything is so globalized now. And just having Google Translate, that doesn't really do it. I mean, language is so much culturally connected that you can look something up in Google Translate and probably get a really accurate translation, but until you know the culture and understand the people and the way they're thinking, and it also opens your mind to other perspectives. And in education, we want kids to see the big perspective and see things not just from their position, but the whole picture, and I think it really helps them with that.
Okay, great. I took 2 years, I think, of French in high school. I took a semester in college. It was required. But I could never go to France and speak fluently, or even probably hold a conversation with anybody back in the day. What's the key to really grasping a language and being able to be fluent in it?
Using it for a meaningful purpose. And a lot of our instruction has changed over the last 20 years. And so now it's shifted to giving kids tasks to do that would mimic what they would have to do in real life. So as teachers, we sit back and say, all right, if our students working in an occupation, or if they travel abroad, what are the really essential things they need to do? Instead of a big long list of vocabulary, let's just break it down to phrases that'll come to their mind, and it'll be like muscle memory. Like if you were to go out and play golf, practice it over and over until it comes out naturally.
All right. What you mentioned that you lived in Japan for a while when your husband was transferred there. Do you regularly travel to other countries and speak the languages that you teach?
When I can, I try to have friendships too with people in the area and use my Spanish locally. But yes, we've traveled back to Spain with our daughter and taken her to meet our friends over there, and so she was able to meet their children from friendships from 24 years ago. And we've gone back to Japan several times. We've hosted people, friends of ours whose kids are now older, are coming over here and studying, and they'll come and stay with us for the weekend, and we'll have to speak Japanese again. Yeah.
Okay, great. Do you have any travel plans coming up?
No, not.
I know the school year just started, but when people travel overseas and so forth, especially if they're, with their families or whatever, they plan well out in advance. Do you have anything on the radar for next summer or anything like that?
Not next summer, but I would really like to go to the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo.
Okay, great.
So I have long-range planning.
All right, so that's 4 years from now. Great. Okay, thanks. All right, next we're going to be talking to Andrea Brooke. Now, Andrea was the 2015 Michigan Biology Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
And that's another quite an accomplishment. And then, you had a really interesting summer. Going down to Florida and being part of a paleontology dig, where you made a discovery that was 5,000 years in the making. I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about that.
I can, yes. It's funny in life how everything fits together. So I won the award for Biology Teacher of the Year for Michigan, and then after that I went to the National Conference for Biology Teachers to receive my award. And while I was there were some representatives from the University of Florida, and they were doing a presentation on how to use fossils, authentic fossils, to teach biology topics like evolution in a high school curriculum, and it grabbed my attention. So I started working with their curriculum and giving them a lot of feedback over the course of the year. And at the end of the year, they contacted me and said, "We appreciate your insight so much. We don't usually do this for teachers outside of Florida, but would you like to come and participate in this fossil dig?" And so, of course, I jumped on it. And so it was myself and about 24 other teachers and some graduate students. And we were digging outside of Gainesville at an undisclosed location, which I'm not allowed to reveal because of security things and whatnot. Nothing's been published yet. But I thought we were going to be finding little tiny rodent vertebrae and teeth, and instead we found huge tusks and skulls and femurs from an extinct species called Gomphotherium, which is an elephant-like creature that lived between 4 and 5 million years ago. So it was amazing.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun, not to mention a great experience. Let's step back a little bit here. How did you get interested in biology to begin with?
So another funny story of how things in life fit together, because I always loved science in high school and thought that I wanted to be a doctor, but I was always tutoring someone on the side. All through high school I tutored, all through college I made money on the side tutoring students, and so I thought I was going to school for medicine, and by my second year they said, "You need to declare a major before you can go to med school." And I said, "Oh, I guess, secondary education, biology." And through that, I had a course where I wrote a paper, and a wonderful grad assistant said, "I think you should send this paper to the person who did this research." And he was an educational researcher, and he read it and he said, "Why don't you come out to UCLA for the summer and do some research?" And so I ended up at UCLA in the summer, and I said, "It's education, forget medicine." And so I've been in education ever since.
Well, that's great. So it sounds like the dig in Florida is one of the highlights of your career up to this point. Now, how are you taking what you learned this summer and bringing it into the classroom? Maybe explain that.
The timing of this, I think, could not have been more perfect, because in November of 2015, the state of Michigan adopted the new Michigan Science Standards, which are based on the national science standards. So all of our curriculum is changing, and a really big change in the curriculum right now is that we're not just teaching content, we're teaching science and engineering skills. And so the goal of the new science standards is to have kids kind of replicate what scientists do in a laboratory setting or in a field setting, which is exactly what I did. And so I think a lot of us as science educators are concerned because we're really good teachers, but we don't necessarily have that field experience. So when I saw this opportunity, I thought this is exactly what I need so that I can come back to my classroom and show my kids exactly what research scientists are doing today. And so I just think that was invaluable.
So when are you going on your next big dig?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you, I am now a part of a fossil society that is an online media group. And so I'm going to keep my pulse on it for sure. And I definitely wouldn't rule it out for the future.
All right, great, great. Okay, so you guys have all worked within the Lake Orion School District for a number of years. You know, Andrea's at the high school, Melissa's at the middle school level, Janine, you're at the elementary level. You know, what brings you back every day? What motivates you to work with students every day? Let's open it up for discussion.
Okay.
I love the middle school kids. I think that they will, they're so enthusiastic and they'll try anything, and so I'm constantly thinking, I'll see something and I get excited about sharing it with them. And they're open-minded so that they'll try, for example, if I find a song in Spanish, I know they're going to go in and enjoy it. It makes me happy to see them having fun and enjoying something.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah, I mean, the kids for sure, their energy and their joy, I mean, K through 5, it's like you have kids coming giving you hugs all day, but I mean, more so than that, just knowing that you're making a difference. And I just feel lucky that, this is my 21st year in education. They've all been at Lake Orion and all at Carpenter. And I get up excited to go to work every day. I love what I do. I feel like every year it just gets better and better. And I don't think many people can say that about their jobs. So it's my colleagues, it's the kids, it's always changing and new and fresh and different. And it's just, I don't know, just keeps you going, keeps you revitalized.
Great, great. Andrea, you got any thoughts?
Well, for teaching high school biology, it's a little bit different experience because you have to kind of draw that enthusiasm out, and that's really what motivates me to kind of work with students who aren't necessarily enthusiastic about science and think that it's not for them, and to kind of swing them over to changing their attitude and ending up really liking it. So when I have kids come back that said, I never thought I would like science, or I just never liked it, or I never thought I was good at it, and then at the end of the year say, I've decided this is what I want to do with my life, or just simply I want to learn more. And that's the most important thing to me, is just really kind of getting kids to be open and enthusiastic when they maybe think that they've already made up their mind about something.
All right. All right. Have you guys all come from 3 different parts of the school district. Have you had, Melissa, have you had students that maybe Janine had earlier? Have you had high school students that these ladies have had? And you've seen them kind of just grow up?
I'm sure we have. I think at this point when you start asking what year you were born, you go, how can this be? I was already teaching. This is, unbelievable. But it is, I think, neat to see that progression, and even in high school between a freshman and a senior, there's such a huge difference.
Probably see that too at the elementary level.
Oh yeah,
big jump from early elementary to the older kids.
Yep.
And you definitely see that at the middle school, the formative years in middle school.
It's fun to go up, if I happen to be at the high school and I see other students, and a lot of times we don't, as bad as this is, always recognize them right away. And then when they start talking to us, you you can see their mannerisms and everything like that. And they change so much over the course of time. That's the thing.
I have a kind of a funny story. I was at the salon getting my hair done, and I checked in at the desk, and the young girl walked away, and then my hairdresser came and got me, and she said, our receptionist says that you are her librarian in elementary school. And she said her name, and I said, and I remembered her right away. I remembered her last name. I never would have recognized her. And then she told me after I went over and talked to her, as soon as you spoke, I recognized your voice, and I knew that was you right away. So that was just, it's neat. It's neat to, I live in the community, I'm a parent in the community, so I see these kids growing up as my, my own children's friends, and then just running into them at the store and around town. It's just really nice to be so rooted in this community. It's a great place to be.
Well, I think that this community and our students and our parents and so forth are very fortunate to have such talented educators at all of our buildings. And like I said, we have 3 of them here today. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to share your experiences and your stories with us, and the honors that you've won and the different awards that your schools have received. And I appreciate you coming here. Next month, we're also going to be featuring some more educators, including Francie Robertson from Pine Tree Elementary, who is actually in Washington, D.C. this month, receiving a Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics Instruction. In addition, we're going to be talking to Jillian Knapp. Jillian traveled to Boston this summer to receive a special international award on behalf of the school district's Early Literacy Intervention Program. And we're also going to be providing you with an update on the district's restructuring activities. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Inside Lake Orion Schools. I'm Joe St. Henry, and we'll see you next month.